Welcome everybody to this new session I'm offering here at Fresh Workshops, Install WordPress from Scratch. We will be running a 2-hour training session workshop. Today is September 2nd, and the goal of this is to show you how to install WordPress. It sometimes can be challenging for people. One of the big questions with WordPress is what's the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org, and is WordPress even the best platform that I should use if I want a blog or a website? I know folks have sent in a lot of different questions about designs and plugins and all that stuff. This one is going to focus on the installation of WordPress. So I do have other trainings out there which cover strategy, SEO, installing plugins, themes, all those others, and more in the pipeline. But I just want to clarify what our focus is. So try to keep your questions to the installation of WordPress, but I know folks will just, have all sorts of curiosities, and that's fine. I'm Adria, and welcome. So here's our agenda. We'll go through the welcome introductions to figure out what you're looking to learn today and kind of find out a little bit about your interests in WordPress. I'll explain how to participate. We'll go through the outline of the training workshop, and I'll cover why WordPress, and then we'll get into installing it. So we're pretty much going to focus on the hands-on part of how do I get WordPress installed, and then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So the primary way we'll communicate will be via chat. I'm using GoToTraining, which is a variant of GoToMeeting, and that allows for two-way communication via chat, as well as you saw the audio can work as well. This is an actual training workshop, so I expect you to participate and actually set up WordPress on your computer. The type of setup we're doing today is something known as a local install or a local web server install. We'll be adding software to your computer, whether it's a PC or a Mac, which will basically put a tiny web server on your computer. With this tiny web server, we will be able to install WordPress. So there's no need for a domain name. There's no need for hosting space, which are often obstacles and sort of complicate the installation of WordPress. Our goal here is to focus on the installation process. So I will ask if there are any questions before we get going. With that said, here's the outline. Why people want blogs and websites, why you want to use WordPress. We'll go ahead and set up WordPress step by step, and then your next steps with WordPress, because as we heard, some people already have blogs out there, and maybe they've just been out there for a while and they're not sure how they got the blog set up. Maybe they want a second blog. Maybe they're on one platform and they want to move to another platform. So that's where I'll kind of talk about your next steps, as well as getting active in the community, which is really important because it makes everything just better. Everything's full of smiles and happiness. I want to go ahead and quickly do a poll. I want to go ahead and ask people, oh, it looks like I have to click Manage Polls. Let's see, what happens if I click Manage Polls? Oh, it's going to open up Firefox. Well, that's okay. I'm not going to do that kind of poll. I will just ask you in the chat if you are on a PC or a Mac, so just go ahead and fill that in. Whoa, okay, oh my goodness. Okay, there's a flurry of answers there. All right, great. No need for polling software, obviously. So PCs, looks like there's a lot of PCs, and 2 Macs, 3 Macs. Okay, so mainly PCs, a couple of Macs. All right, so what we'll do is we'll do it on the PC, but all of this applies to the Mac, so don't worry. And as you can see, I'm actually on a Mac, but I'm going to be using Parallels, which basically allows me to have a tiny PC going as well. And I have to say, I was a total VMware fan. VMware is it's basically an operating system emulator. It allows you to run Windows inside of Mac, but oh my goodness, Parallels is way better, folks. Parallels is actually more integrated, and we won't cover this during the training, but I'm able to easily launch Windows apps right from my Mac interface, and basically the applications run side by side. So yeah, I was at Gnomedex and the Parallels guy was there. I was giving him crap, but wow, I'm very impressed. So we'll go ahead and bring this up. While this is loading, we'll go ahead and talk about, why people want a blog or a website. And, sometimes I get people in these sessions who are designers as well. And what they're doing is they're here to learn about how to build a blog, how to use something like Joomla, because their clients are asking them like, hey, I don't want an HTML website. I want like this WordPress thing. Can you make me one of those WordPress things? So why are people trying to get a presence on the internet? Well, usually they have a product or service that they want to take online. They want to make it digital. One of the best ways to truly build wealth is to make money while you sleep. If your website can be selling for you or your blog can be selling for you, hey, you're on your way to being wealthy. You should have a good quality service or product that people value. And if you do, yeah, why not put it out on the internet? It can be an additional marketing outlet for you as well if you're spending money on print. I know Haji knows about print because he has done a lot of copywriting and advertising in the past for large corporations. Print magazines are dying, so there's this whole new medium, not counting online ads, where you can basically tell a story about your offering and really get people excited and passionate about it. Blogs, of course, are a great place to share stories, like that job interview that you thought you failed and then they call you back and they're making you an offer, or that time that you were eating that hamburger and then you got food poisoning. People really dig the hero's journey. Blogs are a great place to experience those stories, share via commenting, and really get pulled into passionate communities, as well as building those communities. And then once you have the community built, you have that focus, that attention, hopefully you become a caretaker of that attention and use it for good, not evil. Sometimes customers are just like, hey, does your company have a blog? I'll point out here, people are from all over the US on this call. We heard Florida, New Jersey, someone's in San Francisco. Katie, I think, I'm in San Francisco. This is a great example of not only going national, but this could certainly be global. I get a lot of inquiries from people in the UK or Australia, and they're always like, oh, I can't take your live training because, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Those are the reasons that people want to have an online presence. Now, social media, a whole nother beast, but we're talking more of a community landing spot, a spot you own, because once you're in charge of a domain name, you can do anything you want with it. And that's why it's great to build up a website presence, have a blog for news, updates, invitations, and so on. Okay, Haji says, let's get fresh. All right, so how to build a blog online. Blogging was really just a series of updates from someone, right? Which is really, could be just a really long web page. But blogging software eventually came to be. And what did that allow you to do? To more easily add new content without having to go into code and actually, do all the tags and everything associated with HTML. So it made it easier and faster for you to do. One of the other early features was adding in multimedia. It was easier to add in images. Have multiple users adding content to the same blog, the same site. And at first, hosted blogging software was the way to go. So you would sign into a site, and it would say, it will give you an account here, and then you can just add stuff here. And that was great. But eventually people wanted ownership of their own information. The other thing with blogs and WordPress is there's sometimes confusion between the design of a site and then the actual content, and then what the site actually does, the functionality. Sometimes these are all kind of mushed together. Sometimes people only talk about one part. In terms of design, again, in the early days, whatever you could put up there in terms of a banner header. And you could also code your own blogging software, and WordPress certainly has its roots there. It was actually a fork off of another blogging software, which had kind of died. And of course, you could always hire someone just to set it all up for you, to say, I don't know, I just know I need this thing called a blog. Could you do it? Here we are. We're already at the part for installing WordPress, because like I said, this is really about the hands-on experience, not about, the fluff talk about WordPress. So installing WordPress from scratch, we're going to go ahead and download WordPress. We're going to download XAMP. We're going to download a text editor, and I'll talk about each of these as we do it. We'll set up XAMP, add the WordPress files, go ahead and set up our database, and then install WordPress. Now, before we get going, I'm going to talk about the difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. So let me go ahead and get out of this slide presentation because I can only hang out in there so long. The first tab I have open here, WordPress.org. This is where you download the software that you then put into a hosting account, so you're in charge of your own blog. The other one is WordPress.com. And at WordPress.com, this is where you can sign up and in less than 5 minutes have a blog ready to go. Unfortunately, most people then don't take the time to customize the blog with a domain name, so you're stuck with mycoolnewblog.wordpress.com. Unfortunately, then what happens is, you blog there for a while, or maybe you have a great news story, and now it's being covered in all the major newspapers, and you have to give people this weird looking URL. So if you are going to go this route, I strongly suggest you add a domain name immediately. A domain name will cost you $10 a year. So worst case scenario, you just have $10 down the drain. But with a domain name, you can move it, you can manage it, you can have domain email. It's really the way to go. But we're not talking about WordPress.com today. We're talking about WordPress.org. All right, so besides being able to download this software here, there are a lot of good resources. Another thing we'll touch on is, what is the current version of WordPress? Right now it's 3.0.1. So 3.0 came out a bit ago, and if we look at the download counter here on the left, since its release, in June, it's been downloaded 13 million times. Now, I don't know if this counts upgrades, which you can do right in WordPress, but this is a pretty dramatical number. Also at WordPress.org, you can look at things like the Showcase, which features great looking sites. Look at this one right here, Solo Practice University. It's a WordPress BuddyPress powered premium membership site focused on educational and professional networking. So if you go through here, you'll see so much variety, and it really helps to expand your mindset on what WordPress can do. Under Extend, this is where you find the plugins, which really supercharge your WordPress install with all sorts of awesome functionality. If you want to bring in social media, this is where you go to do it. If you want to add in super-powered commenting tools like Discuss or Intense Debate, if you want to make it easier to add in multimedia, images, photo galleries, once again, you're going to be hanging out at the plugins area. A lot of different stuff in here. Analytics, visitor traffic, there's thousands of different options. Themes, there are a core set of themes which you can download from WordPress for free. So the new basic theme that comes with WordPress, much better than the previous one, but often, people want to have a little bit of flavor. Everyone in your office may go to the grocery store and pick up a chicken breast, but once that chicken breast gets home, it's not going to be cooked the same way. So people want that sort of individuality with their sites as well. I really never read the About page, but I suppose you could read the history of WordPress. The other important area here is Docs. You see things like new to WordPress. Hey, we'll help you get going. Installation. Down here, everything you kind of want to know about WordPress 3.0. It's going to give you all the new features. And it's a very easy read. You see there's lots of links. Here's the new theme. It's called 2010. Let's see, it's going to take us over here. We'll take a look at it. But feel free to click around and do your reading. And supposing this link could work in the future, it's not working now. That's all right. And then of course the blog. This is where they give you updates about what's going on with WordPress. The forums, very, very helpful place to go. We can see here how-to and troubleshooting. 195,000 topics, and within those topics, 786,000 posts. So a very active place to get help on everything from installing your WordPress site to using plugins to customizing it and so on. And you just need to register. It's free, no worries. We're going to be clicking here for download. So yeah, so with that being said, the first thing we'll do then is go ahead and download WordPress. And I see I'm still on the Mac, so I will be switching to the PC, which I'll have to log into. Go ahead and grab that password. And I'm sorry if anyone's eyes are bleeding because they see the Windows screen. If that's hurting them, sorry. All right, I'll go ahead and grab this password. Let's see. All right, maybe we'll just move that out of the way so people's eyes won't burn while I look for it. Okay, there it is. All right, I'll just cancel that install that I was working on. And we'll go over here and we'll go to wordpress.org. And we'll just close out of that install. And I will go ahead and make this full screen. There we go. Okay, so everybody should be able to see that just fine. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and download WordPress. And we only have one option, which is to download the zip file, which is about 3 megabytes. In this case, I'm running Windows XP on the system. All right, and it has been downloaded. So please confirm via the chat when you're done downloading WordPress, and then we will move on to downloading XAMP. And I can provide the link as well for folks to go ahead and download WordPress. Okay, great. I see people are indicating they're done. Great. Okay, so the next place we are going is to XAMP. So I will go ahead and just type it into my Google search here. And like I mentioned before, XAMP is basically a mini web server that you can install on your computer. We see here it's for Linux, Windows, and Mac OS X. So in this case, I'm going to pick Windows. If you're on the Mac OS X, no worries, just click there. I'll show you what it looks like for both. So for Windows, we'll just look at everything that's installed. You don't really need to know this, but eventually it's good to be familiar with the software that powers WordPress. So these are the things that run on a web server. So if you buy hosting space, this is running. The first one is Apache. That is basically the server software. So if you want to get to a website, Apache is what answers you and then directs you to the appropriate location on the server. MySQL is a free database, so it's like SQL, which Microsoft owns, but it's free. PHP is a programming language, very popular on the internet. Amazon uses PHP. At one time it was viewed as, oh, not so powerful, not so professional, but in the last 10 years it's really come through as a very popular choice for many of the websites. I should also mention that 70% of websites in the world are running on Apache, so don't get confused and think that most websites run on Microsoft Windows servers. They don't. Most run on Linux or open source Apache type stuff. PHPMyAdmin is a tool that allows you to administer and modify your MySQL databases. We'll be going in here. Perl does not apply to this training workshop. FileZilla, in this case, doesn't apply because we won't be using an FTP client to transfer files. In the Build Your Own WordPress website, we will. This here is actually saying this is the FTP server. So again, since this is a mini server you're installing, it would allow people to connect to it and share out files, but we're not using it this time. And Mercury Mail, this is if you wanted to actually have a little email server too. Again, not applicable for this training, but just want to go through this because this is really about understanding and setting up WordPress. So if we scroll down here, we can see download XAMP. So if I'm on Windows, then I want to go ahead and download this EXE, which is 51 megabytes. And then I'll go ahead and link everybody up to that as well in the chat. And then I'll also do the same for the Mac. We'll just go ahead and go back to, and there we go, XAMP for Mac OS X. All right, and same thing. Okay, so there's download. And here we have this universal binary. Actually, and it looks like there's only one option. So, okay, squash what I said about needing to know if you have an Intel or PowerPC chip. You just want to go ahead and do the XAMP universal binary, and that's 86 megabytes. So I will go ahead and link up to that as well. And I'm assuming no one's running Linux. I know I should ask. Maybe 100 people in a month of all the various trainings, like 2 have Linux. So speak up if you have Linux, and I'll apologize and link you up. Okay, Kevin admits he used to run Linux, but not right now. So. Okay, so then that's the link for Mac. Okay, now all the Linux users are coming out of the closet. Yep, and Theron, Theron is okay on Linux again for this training, but yes. And see, then Theron, you're just my guinea pig then, because he caught an installation problem based on the permissions in a directory when we were doing the Joomla. Look at that, the screensaver just goes on. Isn't Windows nice? Yes, that's why I switched to a Mac. I'm leaving Windows slowly. So, all right, let me know when you are all done installing. Since I'm doing this on a PC, I'm going to go back here. Go back to Windows, and then I'm going to download the exe, which is 51 megabytes. And then I'll get this prompt. I'm going to go ahead and save file, and I can see down here I'm using Firefox. Hopefully you're using Firefox or Chrome. Don't want to be using Internet Explorer. And if you're on a Mac, you know, Safari is okay, but I really would suggest looking into Chrome or Firefox because it's just more secure. Chrome allows you to synchronize your bookmarks and browsing history automatically between computers. There are extensions for both Firefox and Chrome. Internet Explorer doesn't really have extensions. What do extensions do? They add on all these really cool features and functionality for you right in your browser. Everything from if you want to look at your delicious bookmarks to if you want to tweet right from your browser to all sorts of cool things. So, all right. We have downloaded both of those. And I know I said we were going to download a text editor, but you know what? We actually don't need to use it, so I'm going to skip over it. Although I can talk about why we'd want to use a text editor. And let me go ahead and switch back over here to the presentation. So a text editor is helpful once you have WordPress installed if you want to do things like modify a theme, or if you want to go ahead and tweak the configuration file. There's a lot of different reasons, but so I now have this in here, but if we get to it, we'll come back and install it, but it's not really essential. It's more for the long term of using WordPress. And if you guys are taking one of my other trainings, I'll have you install it then. So, all right, with that said, let's go ahead and head back over to our stuff, and we're gonna install. Let's go ahead and bring it back to full screen. Boom. Okay, thank you for letting me know. I'm always going to get that little notice. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is go ahead and install XAMP. So we are going to click on that executable, or if you're on a Mac, that DMG file. So let's go ahead and click it. It's going to start running. All right, yeah, it looks like, yep, Kevin's the lone wolf. Yep, and thank you, everybody, for letting me know that you've downloaded it. And John is asking, let's see. John, do you want to know, like, if are you saying you want to check and see if XAMP is maybe already installed? Is that what you're? Sorry, yep, I know, I'm just checking now. So yeah, John, just let me know. So I think John is asking what happens if I already have XAMP installed because I already installed Joomla. And I'll just ask John if that's what. Okay. Yeah, if you already have XAMP installed, then just hang out because I'm just going to repeat the same stuff, and you'll be able to pick up at the point where we create a new directory, because this directory, instead of saying Joomla, will say WordPress. So yeah, no problems. Just you can just watch. No worries. And I see Latoya is saying, I'm having a problem with my XAMP download. I would go ahead and just try to re-download it, because when you do a download, it actually pulls from a list of servers, and the server you're downloading from could just be one that's a little slow. You can also, if you're at this screen, you see here it says problem with the download, please use this direct link or try another mirror. So I would click on try another mirror, and then by doing that, okay, I see I have some kind of script thing. Let's move that out of the way. You can then pick from one of these mirrors. I would try to pick one that's in the US, like Superb Internet, which is in Washington, or Managed Hosting, which is in New York, or this one in Texas, any of the ones in the US, and ideally closer to you. You may have been sent to a mirror that's a little farther away, like Taiwan or the Czech Republic or Switzerland. So try that, and then no worries. So I'm at the prompt now saying, oh, do you want to run this? Yes, we do. And it's now going to start the installation process. It's going to say, hey, where do you want to put this? I would leave it defaulted as the C drive. So we'll go ahead and click install. All right, and it looks like Haji is still downloading. No worries. This part takes a while. It can vary. Some people's installs very quick, some very timely, so no worries. Yep, and Kitty's reporting the same thing. XAMP's slow in installing. Yeah, it'll take a while, so no worries. We'll give everybody, we'll probably leave 5 or 10 minutes here, and we'll wait for everybody to get installed. Often during this time, that's when I answer questions and stuff, but we're going along at a good pace. Also, so on my clock, it's 5:46. At 6 o'clock Pacific, we'll take a break. So I forgot to mention that we'll have a break, but that way you can have a bathroom break, go get a drink, whatever. Not an alcoholic drink, hopefully, just maybe some hot chocolate or soda, juice. Yeah. And just, yeah, if you have questions, if you're having problems, just let me know. And we get the screensaver. Wow, I'm just going to turn the screensaver off. Okay, not part of the training, but we're going to go in here and go to display, and we're going to be turning off that screensaver. Look, and I mean, how is this even helpful? At what time did Microsoft say, if we just have a 1-minute screensaver, that would be so awesome? Bad idea, Microsoft. Okay, I've turned off the screensaver. And I can see in the background that my install is just finishing up. After the files have all been put into your computer, it's then going to ask you some questions in this lovely DOS window. So I will just wait till I hear from folks that you're at this part, and then we'll take it from there. In fact, I think I'll minimize the background. You can see I took this photo when I was in Seattle for Gnome Decks 2 weeks ago, and this was from the ferry, which I stayed on Bainbridge Island and had a great time hanging out with Maureen. Thanks, Maureen, for hosting me during the conference. But there's a Space Needle. I did not go into it. I heard the food is terrible, so do not get tricked into eating the food there. But they said the view is okay, but there's another building where the view is better. I'm probably going back to Seattle in November. So that's enough about that wallpaper. Okay, so let me know when you're at this part. And Denise says, still downloading. All right, and Kitty says, install is done. Haji, let me know how you're doing. And Scott, you can go ahead and update me as well. Aisha, let me know how you're doing. I see you are not looking at your monitor, so maybe you're reading your email. Deidre, oh, okay, now I see Aisha's paying attention. Sorry, I'm teasing. And I think, John, you had your hand raised about the question we talked about. Since you already have XAMP installed, you're good to go. Kevin, you can feel free to update me. Michael, same thing. Yeah. All right, Latoya's still downloading. All right, Darren's is done. Deirdre's still downloading. Scott, it's almost done. Okay, yep, and Aisha also has XAMP for Joomla, so she's just going to hang out. Okay, and Michael has installed. Okay, great. So we'll just probably wait another 5 minutes for folks to get to this point where they have the DOS prompt. And then I'll just kind of ask everybody again. If you have questions in the meantime about WordPress, I can certainly answer them. And then I'm putting a status update in the chat so everybody knows where we're at. And Haji, feel free to change the drop-down for the chat from organizer only to entire audience. That way everybody can see the notes you share, because I'm the only one who can see that you said rock on. But feel free to publicly share that. Aisha's asking, are there any security concerns with WordPress? Well, that is like asking, are there any security concerns with owning a car? Yes, there are, right? Or how about, are there any security concerns with going to work every day? There are, right? So in both those cases, what do we do with a car? We make sure we lock our doors. Maybe we get a security system. We roll up our windows, right? We don't park in shady locations, things like that, right? To make sure we don't leave out valuable objects, which could entice people to break our windows, things like that. You know, good common sense things. Those same things apply to WordPress as well. Same with going to work every day. As we cross the street, we look both ways, not saying, yeah, I hope someone does hit me because I'm going to get a big fat check. Well, that won't really help if you don't have any legs, will it? You're not going to really be able to go on roller coaster rides. Well, I suppose you could, but it would be kind of hard. And this all could have been avoided by you looking both ways, right? So that same thing applies to WordPress. If you Google out there, you'll find, and not even just in Google, but at the WordPress site, especially in the forums and in the documentation that we looked at, there are best practices regarding securing your website. One of the things they did in WordPress 3.0 is you now have the ability to change the admin account name immediately. Before, it would always be admin. One of the things I'll show you today is when you create your database, you don't want to give it a very obvious name. You want to give it something that would be hard for hackers to guess. And why do people want access to your WordPress site? Because they want the content of it. Even the password that you use at your WordPress site, people are notorious for this, but they will use the same password at many different sites. So if a hacker, you know, or maybe just a 13-year-old kid who found a script is able to get access to your username and password, your email address, they can use that at a variety of sites to see, oh, let me try Gmail, let me try Hotmail, let me try US Bank, you know, let me try all these popular websites until they start getting access to things. Also, as people join your blog, whether to comment or to have their, you know, own posts in there, or maybe you're doing e-commerce actually within WordPress, that becomes a very juicy thing that people want to acquire because, you know, they can sell that. They can use it. That's why I warn people about doing commerce within WordPress. So you can read these articles, follow the steps to secure your site. There's also a plugin, for example, which will notify you if someone tries to log in but they get the password wrong. That way you can kind of get an idea if someone is doing a brute force attack against your site. So I hope that answers your question, but it's really about not so much common sense, but just best practices in terms of, you know, how would you take care of a car if you didn't want it to get stolen or broken into. So, all right, so now I see that some folks are ready. They're at the command prompt. Awesome. Okay, and Kevin's finally done downloading. All right, and Latoya's ready. All right, and Haji has shared rock on with everybody. So cool. So now it's gonna ask you some questions. It just wants to help finish the setup for you. So the first one is, should I add a shortcut to the Start menu desktop? The default is yes. Sure, we'll hit enter. Then it's going to say, should I proceed, with finishing the setup? We'll just hit enter. Sure. Now, should I make a portable XAMP without drive letters? You don't need this because this is more if you're putting it on a flash drive. So the default is no. We'll hit enter. Now it's finishing up the installation, and we're going to be ready to use it in just a minute. Oh, it's ready to use. Now we hit return to continue, and now we are going to just finish up a couple more things. What is your location? It's guessing I'm on the West Coast. It's right. I'm going to hit enter. And now we're all done. So now we're going to hit the letter X for exit. So I'm going to type in X and hit enter. And now it goes away. We are ready to launch XAMP. And what I'll do is take you through XAMP. Then we'll have our break. And then we'll install WordPress. All right. Good times. So hopefully everybody is through the DOS install. And if that is the case, if not, just say, no, not to me, wait. Okay, I just see finish, so okay. Then our next step is to launch XAMP. You can do that from your desktop. It'll be in your Start menu or in your applications if you're on a Mac. So we'll go ahead and launch it. And then I'll talk about what we just have brought up. Okay, so this is the XAMP control panel. This basically gives you a visual interface in which to launch these services. And so the ones we'll be using are Apache, MySQL, actually, and just those two. I was going to say FileZilla, but actually won't be used. So we'll just be using Apache and MySQL. Now I have to let you know one of the gotchas here. If you are running Skype, you need to make a change in Skype because these services could fail because they want to use port 80. Port 80 is what internet traffic goes across. And Skype will try to use port 80 if it can't get through on its favorite port, whatever it is, like 4639, whatever. So they will have a collision and XAMP will fail to run. So I'm going to show you what you need to do in Skype. Now look over here on, I'll look on my PC, my Dell. You'll go to Skype, options, you go to advanced, and then there'll be an item that says connection. And on that area, that sub-tab, you'll see it says use port, mine says 54810 for incoming connections. And then there's a little checkbox that says use port 80 and 443 as alternatives. You want to make sure that's unchecked. People may not have problems with this, but I will bring over the screenshot if people do. Anyway, so you want to go ahead and make sure that's unchecked on the PC. All right, with that said, let's go and get ready to launch. And I'll take a look and see if anybody is reporting that they are having problems launching stuff. Okay, we're back in full screen. Okay, Denise has changed Skype. Deidre's found it on the desktop. Yeah, Kitty, I thought so too, but I didn't see it in there. So, all right, and let's see. Latoya, if your XAMP did not take you to DOS and it went right into an auto install, that's okay, but it may still prompt you in a little bit. Okay. And okay, and Deidre probably found XAMP. Okay, well, now we are ready to go ahead and launch XAMP. So what we're going to do is for Apache, we're going to hit start, and then for MySQL, we're going to hit start. Now, you see I have a prompt from Windows like, oh my goodness, what do you want to do? We want to hit unblock, and then we're going to hit start for MySQL, and we're going to unblock that service as well. And both services are running. Now, if you have a problem with Skype, for example, or firewall or spyware protection software, these will fail to run. You'll see over here on the left, these say service. What this means is if you check these boxes, these services will run automatically when you start up your computer. I don't advise that because by doing this, you're basically giving file access to anyone who's on the same network as you, so this can create a security risk. So instead, you would only launch this when you're ready to go ahead and work in your local WordPress install. And the way we're setting it up, this is a popular thing that developers do. That way they can work on a website offline. They don't need to be connected to the internet. It's not a public site, so only they can see it, but they'll work on themes and designs and plugins this way. And then when they're ready, then they push it out to the public site, whether it's for a client or something they're working on. All right, and Michael is reporting that the SQL is started, but the Apache isn't starting. Skype says it's needed for a restart. What you want to do is make sure you make those changes in Skype and then close down Skype. So you may need to go over here, and kind of find Skype and close it down. But go ahead and close it down and then attempt to launch again. So ideally, everybody should be here. Ideally, we should be seeing the XAMP control panel, which we've launched, and we've clicked Start on Apache and Start on MySQL. And so both of them should have a green running sign next to them. If not, we need to troubleshoot for you. So now we have our own little web server running on our computer. How awesome. We are now super powerful and we can do so many cool things. So the first thing is, let's check out this XAMP thing. I mean, we have it installed, but what does that mean? So what I want you to do is open up a browser. I'm using Firefox because Firefox is awesome. And I'm just going to go to Google here to kind of refresh stuff. What I want you to do is in the address bar at the top, go ahead and erase Google, and I want you to type in http:/. I'm sorry, why am I ignore that. We don't want to put that in. Maybe we do. No, we don't. Instead, we want to type in localhost, just the word, and then hit enter. Now, based on how your system is set up, this may or may not work for you where it then shows you XAMP. If it doesn't show you XAMP, instead of typing in localhost, you can also type in the IP address of your own computer, which is and will always be 127.0.0.1. That's basically saying myself. So if I hit enter again, it's going to show me the XAMP screen. So either way, typing in localhost or the IP address, you want to see the XAMP item show up. So I will say enter in localhost or 127.0.0.1 in your browser's address bar to get the orange. And let me know if you get, you can just say yes if you get the orange XAMP screen. For those of you who are here, our next step is to click English. And this is basically the XAMP for Windows or XAMP for Mac OS X console. I'm just going to cover the essentials which apply to what we're doing today. On the left, we have welcome. It's telling us what's going on, what are we seeing. It's saying congratulations. On the left, the next item down is status. It shows us which items are running within XAMP. You can tell it's thinking. But we can see here things like the MySQL database, the PHP is active, and Apache is active. A lot more items are active, but most of those we will not be using. If we click on the next item, which is security, here it explains that XAMP is not set up in a way that makes it secure out of the hatch. It's for development, and so it explains some of the security issues, like how I said, if you should only be using this for development, so you shouldn't have the stuff running all the time, only when you're using it. If you're running this on a laptop, even more reason to only run it when you're using it. Otherwise, if you go to a coffee shop or a conference, if you leave this running, people basically can have access to your file system. Not all your files, but you just don't want people snooping. You want to make it so easy that they can just hop on. All right, so with that said, this actually opened up a new window. So we're going to close this security window, and this brings us back to the main area. What we're going to do now is basically unzip the files of WordPress and put them into where they need to be so we can launch our website. So what I'm going to do is minimize my browser, and I'm going to minimize my XAMP, and I'm going to go to my downloads. So I'm going to click on downloads here in Firefox, and there's my WordPress 3.0. What I like to do when I'm using Firefox or Chrome is right-click and then say Open Containing Folder. This way I can figure out where my stuff is. And there is the WordPress 3.0. What we need to do is expand this zip file, which is compressed. So since I'm on Windows XP, I'm going to right-click and choose Extract. On a Mac, you can often double-click, and then it'll just extract it. But we need to see an additional folder created. And then we'll be getting the files inside of that folder and putting them over into XAMP. Now, if you had hosting space set up, you would instead be transferring these files via FTP, which is a file transfer protocol client, like FileZilla, which is what I use in the Build Your Own WordPress website training. I've clicked into the folder called WordPress. Here it is. We need to open up another folder and browse to XAMP. So I'm going to go down here to my Start menu. I'm going to go to my computer, and it's opening up a new window. I'm going to move this window over a little bit, and then I'm going to go inside the C drive, and then there's XAMP. I'm going to go inside XAMP, and then I am looking for htdocs. htdocs is the equivalent of hosting space when you get some space online. So inside htdocs, I can see XAMP, index, and this other index thing. What I'm going to do is make a new folder, and I'm going to call it WordPress. So for those of you who participated in install Joomla from scratch, you'll have a Joomla folder in here. You're just going to make a new folder. I'm going to right-click and say New Folder, and I'm just going to type in WordPress. So go ahead and hit yes to let me know that you're at this point, and then our next step will be to copy over the files. So to do that, what I suggest is people have both the folders open, and you kind of put one in the upper corner, and then you kind of put one in the lower corner. So here we have our WordPress folder. We're going to double click on it. So we're now inside the WordPress folder. It's empty. I'm going to resize it by dragging on the corner here and kind of making it a little bit smaller. And I'm going to move it down in the corner because we're going to be basically bringing over files into it. So this is our destination in the lower right, which is basically our virtual hosting space. This is the XAMP location. This larger window on the left, these are our files we have extracted for WordPress. We will not be bringing over the folder, but all the contents. And what are the contents? Well, we have three main folders. WP content. This is what makes blogs rock. WP admin. That's how you control your WordPress site, and WP includes contain basic functionality within WordPress. All these other files, are good and helpful. We need all of them. So we're going to copy over these files. Now, based on how you normally copy files or your comfort level or your operating system, there are a lot of ways to do this. One of the ways I'll show you is just by clicking on everything. So we'll go over here to Edit, and we're going to do Select All. If you like to use keyboard shortcuts on a PC, you could do Control-A. Sort of similar on a Mac. So if we do Control-A, everything has been selected. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mouse over any one of the items that are now blue, click and hold down, and then as we're holding down, we see as we move our mouse, there's kind of this little indicator, and if we move it over here, we see that the files are kind of moving with us, so we want to just let go of them there. And in this case, it moved all the files. You certainly could copy the files as well. So instead of left-clicking and holding down, you could right-click and hold down. And right-clicking and holding down will then give you the option to copy or move. So maybe you want to copy the files. Either way is fine, as long as they all get over there. That's the important thing. Okay, it looks like most everybody's done. So now what we're going to do is go back to our browser. And I know we've been looking at this XAMP thing, okay, great, whatever, but instead of XAMP, we're going to get rid of that last part, and instead of XAMP, we're going to type in WordPress. And then hit Enter, and boom, we are now into the WordPress installation. Of course, it's saying, hey, I don't think there's a WP config file. We should probably make one. Oh, okay, so and once we click this, we're now on the formal setup process for WordPress. So now, before we proceed with setting up WordPress, you'll see one of the first things it's going to ask us for is a database name, a database username, a password. Oh my goodness, okay, we need to get it some stuff. So before we jump in, let's go ahead and make sure we have that database info. To create a database, we are going to be doing it via PHPMyAdmin. If you are using a hosting company that has cPanel, there's a place where you can make a database. So we'll be making a database and a user. And then feeding it into WordPress, and then we'll be done with our setup. So what I'd like you to do in your browser is open up a new tab, and we're going to go back to XAMP. So I'm going to do the, it could be localhost or 127.0.0.1. I'm just going to do localhost. And it brings us back to XAMP, right? And from here, on the left, we see under Tools, PHP MyAdmin. We're going to click on that. And it's going to bring us to the PHP MyAdmin main administration window. So basically, if you're working on a WordPress site, one time or another, you're probably going to have to come in here to import, export, make changes. This is just someplace you're going to see eventually. So, all right, so just let me know if I need to slow down, otherwise I'll just keep going. What we're going to do now is create a database and a user. Now on the first page here, you see that we can go ahead and create a database, but we want to just go ahead and do both at the same time. So instead, if we go over one of the tabs at the top says Privileges, if we click on that, we see that there is already a PMA and a root, whatever. We'll ignore those. We're going to click on that thing down a little bit that says Add a New User. And now here's where we start putting in our info. Now, this info, we need to keep track of it. So I'm going to ask everybody to either bring up Notepad or Text Edit to just keep, just the basic stuff. That way we can feed it into WordPress and be ready to go. So you can search for Text Edit or Notepad. I'm going to go to Run, and I'm going to just type in Notepad, which is one of the basic text editors that comes with Windows. Text Edit comes with the Mac. We're going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'll just move it to the side. So the first thing it needs is a username. Now, I mentioned this before about security. You don't want to ever make your database WordPress because that's really easy for people to hack. They can guess the name of your database. The other thing is when you're making a username and a database, it's beneficial if you keep them the same sort of naming convention. So what I suggest is that you start it off with WP and then pick 3 numbers. So the 3 numbers can be anything. The goal is to keep this short, though, because if you make it too long, it will cut it off. So we have WP, and then I'm just going to put in 778. It can really be anything. For host, in most cases, this is localhost. So we will put in localhost. Now for the password, we can make one or we can generate one. I strongly suggest you generate one because most people make very weak passwords, and that's bad. So I'm going to click Generate, and it puts it in twice and then gives it to us. So I'm going to go ahead and copy. I'm going to highlight it and copy it. And then I'm going to go down to my notepad, and I'm going to say database password. And then I'm going to paste it in. And then I'm going to say database user singular. And then I'm going to take this WP778, copy, put that down there because this is what WordPress will need. And we have our information for our user. Now for database for user, the next part it says don't give any access, create a database with the same name and grant all privileges. That's the one we want to do because in one step we are now creating the user and the database. We don't need to check any of the global privileges. That's for all of the PHP MyAdmin, not necessary. So then we're going to go ahead and hit go. And it says you have created a new user in green. We see over here on the left, there's our database. It's empty, but that's okay because WordPress is going to fill it up with stuff. I'm going to go back over to WordPress and say, let's go. And now it's going to ask us for all this stuff. WordPress database name. Well, we know what that is because it's over here. So this is actually the user and database. It's both. So I'm going to take this, copy it, and then I'm going to put that in as the database name, and I'm going to put it in as the username. And now it's going to ask me for the password. Okay, that's okay because I have the password. And that's why I strongly suggest you use Notepad or Text Edit. Do not try to write these down because it happens a lot where then people can't, they can't read their own writing, basically. All right, I leave the database host as localhost. You'll see over here, pretty much is always localhost, right? And then table prefix, WP, pretty much leave it. If you were running multiple WordPress installations in the same database, which is possible. You could potentially change this, but most likely you would not be setting up WordPress through the setup this way. You would be doing it a different way. So now we'll hit, oh, and John is asking, how do I get to the WordPress page? Good question. You get to the WordPress page by going to localhost and then /WordPress, which is where you, when you create the folder and you copy the files, since you named it WordPress, then that's how XAMP knows where, that this is a valid folder. So I'm going to go ahead and hit submit. And it says, all right, Sparky, you've made it through this part of the installation. WordPress can now communicate with your database. If you're ready, it's time to run the install. And watch how fast this is, folks. Ready? I've installed WordPress. Oh my God, that was so hard. Oh, no, I'm out of breath. No, I'm not. Well, maybe I know I'm not. Okay, so we've just installed WordPress. It just needs a little bit more information from us in order to get set up. So it's going to need a title. It wants to know what we want the main username to be, and in WordPress 3.0 we can change that now. We're going to need to put a password and then an email address. So feel free to put anything you want. I'm going to go ahead and say, I always use the word awesome. So awesome new WordPress site with an exclamation. And instead of admin, I guess I'm going to put freshy fresh. All right, and this is a good time to use your notepad again, just in case, because you may think I'm totally gonna remember this, but then someone calls you on the phone, and then you totally forget whatever you just typed in. So I'm gonna say copy, go down here, and I'm gonna go over here and call this WordPress login, and I'm gonna say username. Obviously, in the long term, you want to use a password management tool versus keeping things in Notepad. Excel is not secure. One that I recommend, I've been using since 2006, and I share this with my clients as well. It's called KeePass, and it's open source and free. So keepass.info. It can run on the PC. There's one for the Mac. It can run on a flash drive, and it's basically a database management tool. So all of them are actually in a little encrypted, AES encrypted database. You can search for passwords. It's very awesome. I love it. So totally easy and fun to use. Yeah. Anyway. So here we are, back over here. I put in a username. I'm going to put in a password. Okay, I think I'm just going to type it up here, just so. Cut out pound 143. I'm just making up a password. All right, that looks like a good one. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste that in twice, and it's saying it's a strong password. Oh, it's not going to let me paste it in. Cut out pound, oops, and I think my keyboard just died. I knew it was low on juice, but cut out pound 143. Okay, and then I'll just put that over here. And it's not going to let me paste it the second time because it wants to make sure I'm actually typing it, because I could forget it. And then I'll put in Adria at freshworkshops.com. And you have this option, allow my site to be indexed in Google and Technorati. You can always change this later. I'm going to say install WordPress. And I'm done. Success. I'm going to go ahead and hit login, and I'll type in freshy fresh and my password, and I could say remember me or not, and I'll log in. And I have just set up WordPress. I can open it in a new tab to check it out, and this is all running locally on my own computer. And I can add themes, plugins, anything. So with that, I'm now going to take a look at the questions, and I'll help folks through, where they're at. We'll get everybody caught up. Aisha is saying, your blog, but your girl is on WordPress. How long does it take you to maintain it on a monthly basis? To maintain it, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes a month. in terms of maintenance, what does that require for a WordPress blog? Mostly keeping it updated, but you don't always need to update. Sometimes they have these smaller incremental updates. Sometimes they're just like, oh, we've added this thing on, or we fixed a bug. Not every site is suffering from that bug. If it's a security release, then you certainly want to get your site updated. If we go over here to WordPress, you'll notice on the download WordPress page on the lower right, you can get notified when they release new versions. I would encourage you to sign up for that. If you're using an RSS reader, which allows you to pull information from different websites and get them in your reader versus visiting them all, sign up right here for the feed. Oh, excuse me. And you can see here, July 29th, they released the announcement for the new version. They said, PHP 4 is going to have end of life, 100 million plugin downloads. So great thing to subscribe to. Yeah, in terms of the other thing for maintaining a WordPress site is updating the plugins. Once again, you want to check if you've customized your plugin, and I don't mean just like preferences, but sometimes, like I do this, I actually go into the plugin code and make changes. You may not want to update the plugin until you read what the changes are. The other thing with updates, maybe you want to, based on traffic and how people are behaving on your site, you may want to kind of move some stuff around. I'll bring up my blog to show you folks. This is my main blog that I blog at. I have a couple of others, including Fresh Workshops. So, I kind of, talk about stuff. You see, so I really have blogged since August 17th, and that was an announcement just about the voting for South by Southwest. I have two columns over here of links and different things. Stuff like that. But those are big things in terms of maintenance. Making sure your version's up to date if needed, making sure your plugins are up to date if needed, adjusting your content. So, that's what I was going to say. So based on traffic, I could potentially want to move some stuff around or add some things or change some things, and also see what works. But it doesn't really take a lot. What happens is people get a site set up and then they don't do anything for months or years. There are people out there running WordPress 2.3. That's so old. It's ridiculous. It's like, what, 1 or 2 years old? It's old. It's really old. So, like John McCain old. So, hopefully that helps. Yeah, so Latoya's saying, she had done the one-click install, and then, you're in a canoe without any oars. How can you're in the middle of the lake. How are you going to get anywhere? If you hand paddle, sure, that you're going to be exhausted if you can even make it to shore before the sun goes down. So I just don't see it as a good investment of time or effort. All right, we're bloggers. We're self-empowered, right? So we should know how to do stuff. So I'm going to switch back over here to my browser. And go back to the presentation. So what we've done is we've downloaded WordPress, we download XAMP, we skipped doing the text editor. We've set up XAMP, we've added the WordPress files, we set up the database, and then we installed WordPress. So it's pretty awesome. Pretty good stuff. And then these were the parts I covered about Apache, MySQL, PHP, and PHPMyAdmin. So Aisha is asking, how much is too much for a custom WordPress theme? I don't think that there's really a price limit. I say on average, if you're having someone, now there's two types of custom themes. Now you can use a free theme from WordPress.com, or sorry, WordPress.org. You can buy a theme, and that's like a theme that these people are called themers. They make themes. You can buy them from them. They're listed actually under themes as approved commercial themes. Then here's where customization starts. There are people who customize these pre-made commercial themes, and then there are people who build themes from scratch. To have someone customize the theme, really you want to look at the number of hours they're putting in and what you're asking them to do. Do you need them to make a logo for you from scratch? Do you want some colors changed? Do you want to change the functionality? It's really regarding, what you want done. It's hours. For a custom theme, it could range. So for this type of customizing a template, it could be anywhere from 2 hours to I guess 20 hours. It really depends. Like, or let's say you wanted to add, I want to do shopping cart on here. Well, none of these come with a shopping cart. That's functionality that someone needs to set up for you. What do people charge per hour? Most WordPress designers charge anywhere from $40 to $100 an hour. So just figure out, by how many hours. You can look at their portfolio. You can talk with some of their previous customers to get an idea of if it's a good fit for you. If someone's doing a custom theme, I tell people that could cost anywhere from $600 to easily $5,000. Again, it's about how much work you're having. Like, for example, let's say you have an old car. Let's say you have a Pinto, and it's not in such good condition. In fact, let's go over to Flickr and find a good example. Hopefully I'll be able to find like a not so healthy Pinto. That food looks good. Who made that food? Okay, so like let's say that this is your Pinto and you're like, well, actually this one's in really good condition, at least visually. So let's see, I think it might be a 1978. So we can see the finish is really good on the car overall. There may be a little bit of rust, but let's say that you had a Pinto that was in not such good condition, right? And you're like, oh, I'd like some body work done. The engine blew out on me. I kind of need you to, work on all these things on the car. Well, mechanics, they have a book they actually reference, which gives them an estimate of how long these things will take. But we can look at like this one. I don't know why this Pinto is in some bushes here, but let's see, and there's a rusty pipe on it. Yeah, this Pinto is going to need some work. So this Pinto would probably be more expensive to, get up and running. Let's say you want, and also let's talk about condition. Do you just want something that can work on the street, or do you want something that you could put into a car show? The same thing applies for designs of sites. So hopefully that helps to answer your question. And we have about 4 minutes left. If folks have questions, let me know. We can do open questions now too. So if it's not directly related to the installation of WordPress and you just have general questions, I can go ahead and answer those. But thanks for joining, and yeah, spread the word. And like I said, I'll send out the links later tonight, and you guys can look for the video. All right, and John needs help. So Kitty signed off, but I was going to help her, so I will follow up with her via email. John needs help, so I will help him. And Michael, were you set? Were you all set there? Oh, Dieter, thanks. You're welcome. I will be publishing this. Thank you, everybody, for participating. And I run fresh workshops. Pretty awesome. And there is upcoming training. You can check it out on the classes page. But stay tuned, because there's going to be this beautiful new design I'm so excited about. Build your own WordPress website, which is 4 weeks of training. The September one is sold out, but the next one is in November. And that includes registering a domain name, getting hosting space, installing plugins, installing themes, talk about strategy regarding SEO, writing blog posts. We talk about the difference between posts and pages. We talk about like everything. We talk about Google Analytics, why it's important to track your traffic. I'm doing a WordPress crash course, as I call it. I'm not sure if that one's sold out. Maybe that one's sold out. I'll have to make another one now. But this is basically 3 hours of intensive training on WordPress. So WordPress training for busy people. Oh, I guess it is sold out. Crap. Okay, but I'll be putting up another one. So make sure you sign up at the newsletter. And I'll put the newsletter link. I'll be doing a follow-up email with all of the links that we've used, as well as I'll let you know when the video's out. Signup.fresh. Yeah, so you can sign up there on the newsletter. But WordPress training for busy people is kind of a crash course on everything you need for WordPress. So here, why should you be using WordPress? Then this is not so much the installation, but more of the how to use WordPress. So if you are at a company and you're blogging, or you're using WordPress, but maybe you don't think you're using it all that to the fullest extent. Also talk about what's new in WordPress, but yeah, what are themes, including some interesting diagrams about the header, the footer, the sidebar, the content, no code, but just the parts of a theme. Managing users, plugins. Then we'll be talking about a lot of the parts of the dashboard, including posts, media, appearance, some of the settings that you want to configure when you're working on a new site, permalinks, so on. Yeah, a lot of stuff in here. So this is really the how-to of using WordPress, including administration. And John got error establishing a database connection, so that means that the information you put in did not match whatever you set up. The fastest way to resolve that is to go back in to phpMyAdmin, click on the upper left-hand corner here, and go ahead and create a new user and a new database versus trying to change the password and whatever. So John, you'll go to phpMyAdmin, you'll go over to privileges. You're going to repeat that process I showed folks, which is once you're on privileges, you're going to click on add a new user. That's down about halfway. And then you're going to go ahead and put in a username, something like WP, and I would suggest 3 numbers. You want to go ahead and document this in Notepad, database user and database, and then database password. So you'll put in the user. The host will be localhost, just like we've been connecting to. For password, I suggest you click generate. It's going to populate it twice and then show you the password. You should copy this and put it also into your Notepad. And then for database for the user, you want to go ahead and check the middle radio button, create database with same name and grant all privileges. You don't want to do any of the global privileges because that's system-wide for phpMyAdmin. And then you'll hit go. And then it will generate that new information and associated user and database. You'll then bring that back over to WordPress and put that in here. Scott is asking, do you know of any free hosting companies? If not, then what is the cheapest company? Well, Scott, I suppose there are free hosting companies, but with hosting, you want to be careful. It's not always you get what you pay for, because you can certainly pay a lot for hosting and have crappy service. For the other thing too, though, is with some of the lower end hosting companies like GoDaddy, for example, great for domain name registration, bad for hosting. It's hit or miss with connectivity, performance, and/or support. I have a page over at Fresh Workshops that talks about hosting. I recommend Roach and Host. They have been awesome. I've been using them for what, a year and a half. And it's about $8 a month. So based on what you want to use the hosting for, I tell people it's reasonable if you're learning technology or you're building a blog or whatever it is to spend $250 a year on this interest, this hobby, this development. Basically, $250 breaks down to be, let's see how much that would be per month. 250 divided by 12, so it's $20 a month. I often ask people, do you have cable television? Most people say yes, and I go, right there, that's much more expensive than your investment in your future for technology. But if you go here to hosting, I talk about what to look for in a host and things to consider, and I say don't let cost be a deciding factor. And then I talk about like how cPanel is very important because it's the de facto standard when it comes to managing your hosting space. And then I give a comparison of a couple of, there's a lot more like HostDime and DreamHost. I talk about why you really don't want to go with GoDaddy, DreamHost, or Media Temple, or Network Solutions. So you should read this page. And yeah, in the Build Your Own WordPress website, we actually sign up for hosting. So I will link you up to this in the chat. It's kind of like if someone says, do you know of any places that offer free babysitting? That would be kind of iffy, right? Or do you know any places that do free heart surgery or free dentistry? It kind of, or how about, do you know of any places that give free meals? Well, yeah, certainly there are some places, but it may not be a place you want to actually go to bring your baby or bring your teeth or bring your appetite. Oh, jeez. Too funny. Okay, and Denise says Apache is finished, MySQL is running. So are Apache and MySQL running? And maybe you mean XAMP is finished, Denise? Oh, Scott, I hear you. Well, Scott, there's a lot of internship opportunities. I would, I want to say if I at 17, I was working at 17. So not that everybody needs to be working at 17, but I was also paying my own rent at 17, but that's okay. Anyway, talk to your parents. Say, hey, parents, you know what? The dude who founded Facebook, he totally did that in college. I totally want to make a gajillion, drbillion dollars, and I want to buy you guys like this awesome condo with a pool, so why don't you contribute to, you know, my interest right now? Look at Bill Gates. I mean, one of the things his mom did was she got together with the other moms, and they were like, we need to make sure our kids have access to this computer thing. We're not really sure what it is, so they got a dumb terminal at the school. And then Bill Gates and all his little friends had access to the mainframe, right? And the moms bought time on the mainframe server. And I mean, you know what I mean? So tell your parents, I want you to make an investment in my future, in our future. And then I'm sure that they'll cover hosting for you. Yeah, just ask them to think about it. You know, you could even do a short paper for them. You know, 3 successful companies that were founded by teenagers. In fact, like there's a Teens in Tech Summit coming up. I'm not sure if it's in San Francisco, but do some research, give them some stories, like the one about Bill Gates, and say, hey, you know, and Facebook dude, I mean, do that, and then just say, you know, this is, and explain what you want to use it for too. It's like you're doing a mini business plan. But tell them, oh, say, can't you imagine yourself in Florida or, you know, Naples, and you'll have a swimming pool? I can say, I can make that happen for you. So there's also a really good Newsweek article about it's like 20 CEOs who never finished college. Not that I'm saying you shouldn't go to college, but just to give some perspective. Like Michael Dell, who founded Dell Computers, college dropout.